Welcome back, everybody. Well, I hope I haven't pissed off. No, I really don't care if I pissed off an awful lot of purists out there. I don't care. And wait a minute, this next thing, you're really gonna get pissed off. It's like woohoo, because I'm an old rally guy. I don't care. You know, if I don't give two shits if my car is dirty or not. You know, if it ends up on its roof, well, it kind of looks better. So, other than that, um, we have two pieces in the puzzle done. We have the VR sensor, the crank sensor, and we have the throttle body with all this miscellaneous stuff right there. So it's pretty much theoretically you could get it to you could utilize the EFI system on this, but I'm going to go one step further. What I want to do is I want to build accessibility of componentry basically and ease and a little bit more of like a little bit of an upgrade on the exhaust. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the cameras over. I'm going to show you the original turbo, the original exhaust, and or at least where I can show it to you, and that way I can actually what's this? I'll first do the turbocharger because I got to spin the engine around to show you the exhaust, and that's kind of I have to bring the engine crane over here and lift it up with the chains on it and all that stuff. So first things first, let me show you the turbocharger, and then I'm going to pull it off, and then I'm going to show you the new turbocharger right there and why I'm doing this. Because there's a valid reason for this. Because I want to drive the car, and it's one thing when you have that. It still maintains the spirit of the car, but it's another thing when you sit there and go, this thing's a pain in the ass to fix. But I just want some just easy components that if it breaks down, guess what? If I had to go to a show or something like that, or just want to go out and drive it, I can get the parts the next day. If not, I'll call a buddy and he probably has them in his box, toolbox or something. So that's it. But let me show you what I want to use. Let me show you the old turbo. Let me show you the new turbo. And then I'm going to pick the engine up, and then we're going to spin it around. I'll show you what I'm going to use for an exhaust, and then we're going to spin it around and start building something kind of cool. I just think it's going to be kind of neat. Yeah, it's. I, hold on. Let me drink some more coffee. Let me bring the cameras over. Let me show you. Before I pull the turbocharger off, I wanted to show you one of the reasons why I am going through all this trouble to do the header, the turbo, and all this stuff. It's just this is just one problem that was just compounded by numerous other problems. First things first. This right here, this header is factory, and you see how thin this flange is? It's about 3/8 of an inch thick. If I take my feeler gauge, I can run right through the gasket. So this flange right here is bent. So anybody who has an R5, who's looking at an R5 Turbo, pull the heat shield off. Make sure this thing isn't bent because you'll lose boost and it'll just blow through. There's only there's a couple options. You can grind it down, service it, but you're making it even thinner so it's more apt to bend again, or you're gonna have to cut it off and put a new flange on it. One of the two, because you're probably not gonna find a header. It's just probably not gonna happen. Man, what am I doing? I'm building a new header. So to make everything better, but I wanted to show you that first. Let me pull this turbocharger off, and then let me show you what the difference is between this turbocharger and the new turbocharger. Here are the two turbochargers. This right here is a GT28. This is what I'm going to use. Basically, it's a 90s turbo. Late 80s, early 90s is what this basic design is. And there's a couple of, I see a couple of advantages to this, but let me go into the reason why I picked this. The reason why I picked this is because of this on the T3 of the cold side. The cold side has to be a certain width for application in the car, because I've tried to use a bigger T3, T4 turbo one. I just put it in there just to see what would happen, and the cold side compressor on a T3, T4 will not fit. It just will not fit. So my whole deal is like, okay, well, I need the same size compressor. Well, I looked around and my friend had this GT28, and because he went to an RS with a ball bearing one. So I said, you know what? Hey, I traded him a T3, T4 for it, and I have this. because the cold side is basically, I measured it, it's like, if you take a look at it, it's like, yeah, it's pretty much 6 inches, and yeah, pretty much 6 inches, that's just what it is. And that's, you know, that's my main reason why I did this. Now, I also looked at the GT28 because I'm looking at it going, huh, look at the hot side. The hot side is actually physically smaller than the T3. What does that say to me? Well, it says to me that they're going to use less exhaust to spin the exhaust turbine or the exhaust portion of the turbocharger shaft. So I should get a little bit better on, you know, a little bit earlier boost. You know, it takes less air to volume to spin that turbocharger. You know, and you're probably saying, well, geez, what about upper end? Well, the car really doesn't do upper end. I mean, I think the red line is like 60, you know, low 6,000s on it. I can't remember. I'd have to go up and look at the tachometer. But I'm not going to be there that much anyway. So if I can get anything better than having the boost come on at like 3,800 RPM, it'll be a good thing, you know? And if you take a look at the wastegates on this, right here is a standard T3 wastegate, normal. You know, the T3 actuator goes against the flat plate of the T3 housing, opens up, you know, bleeds off the exhaust. This thing, it's cast into it like this. Here's the flapper plate. It does the same exact thing as the T3. The only difference is the housing I bought for the rear. What happens is this thing has a really nice, you know, basically a bleed off into the, geez, I can't even remember, into the clamp right here for this turbo right here. So it's a nice, easier transition. That's what I'm trying to say is an easier transition that'll flow out, and I can use the clamp right there, and it should work pretty well. You know, also this thing's gonna be run with a boost controller, so the wastegate is actually set up for a boost controller. This thing could be, but I'm not really sure how it would work. But this thing is well known for a boost controller, and also the rebuilds. Rebuild kits for these, I have to get them from France. And I found a partial rebuild kit for $100. No problem. Great. Contacted the people. I says, yeah, I got an R5 Turbo too, 84. And they said, which turbo? Huh? I thought they all come in the same one. And they said, no. That's what they told me. So I'd have to take this thing apart anyway to, how can I put this? To see exactly what their parts could have and match it up to make sure it works. But that's still coming from France. I don't care about the $100 for rebuild kit or the $20 to have it shipped. It's the weeks that it takes to get here. But if I have a GT28, I can buy one off of eBay for $100 and it'll be here in 4 days. I mean, and then I can throw it back on, and everything's universal. Or I can have a kit, a rebuild kit in stock. What are they, like 25 or $35? You know, who cares? At least you would have it on the shelf. And then I sat there and go, okay, well, that's two real big pluses. And also, if you take a look at the intake of the T3, this is an old school T3, you know, has a very shallow or very small exhaust port or pusher port, and an intake port right here, and you have one big honking huge thing and big honking huge thing here. So I figured, you know, I think this is going to work out much better. I mean, we still have to clock it to make it look like this and all that, but it's, you know, that's minor. The main thing is getting the flange on. I have my friend cut this up for me. It's a steel flange, because I asked him to cut stainless steel because I didn't want it, you know, I didn't want the, how can I put this? I didn't want it to warp. And he said, what do you mean? Stainless steel warps easier than regular mild steel under those conditions. And I'm sitting on, well, A, I'm not a goddamn engineer, and I'm not a machinist, so I'm just a hillbilly out here, so you know what? Sounds good. Cut me out. It's like, woohoo! All right. So it's all cut up. I just have to, you know, port it to go into the, you know, to go in from the header into the turbocharger, so it has a nice smooth transition without any problems. And I think it's going to work out pretty good. What I have to do now is, let's go back over to the engine. I'm going to show you how I'm going to start the header and what I'm going to use for it. Because I'm going to bring back over here, back over there. There we go. So, all right, let me throw this in the box that's going to, and And oh yeah, let's just throw this in the box. Let's see what happens. We'll bring this over. Here we are at the back of the motor. What do we have? We have the heat shield right here that's on the gearbox, and I've loosened these bolts. We also have a mount right here. Let's pull these off. We have a mount right here to support the turbocharger and the end of the header. The end of the header is not strong enough to support the turbocharger itself. It will crack. It's just metallurgy. You know, what we're going to use this for is I'm going to use this to put on another plate of metal. I'm going to make one to actually go right here and to fit the T25 holes. The T3 holes, as you can see, are way too big. So I got to just make another one as tough as I can make it, clamp it. That way we can clamp this to the bracket right here, and we have a starting point. This is where our starting point will go, so we can miss everything. Hopefully keep it underneath the original heat shield would be great. And yeah, so let me go transfer this to a piece of steel, cut it out. We're not going to have fancy holes in it yet, but we'll get a thick enough piece of steel where it's going to be just there, cut. I can bolt this to it, and then we can start making our header one step at a time. That's about it. All right, let me go find some metal to trace this to, and we will make this all work. All right, we're sitting here at the computer. What are we going to do? Well, we have to figure out what header we want to put in, and we have to figure out how we're going to make it all work and what we got to use to put it in there. Now, the big thing is with me is that right here, this is the book I'm looking at. This is the kits for doing the Group B's R5 Turbos. Now, what this is the 185 and 200 kit. What we are looking at on this, let me go to the page that has it. Take a look at this header. You can see right here, I'm pointing to where the heat shield is. That's in a stock heat shield. It looks like, you know, they might have to modify it, but I'm going to do my damnedest not to modify anything on this car. Now, if you look right underneath it, they have a 4-into-1 header that loops around the back of the cylinder head and goes to the turbocharger. That's kind of what we're going to be doing. Right here is the original turbocharger. This is a 421 stainless steel, pretty cool setup. But you know, it has the warp flange, and also right here is where the oxygen sensor was, and it blew out on me going home one night. It's like I thought I blew the motor, but well, okay, whatever. But other than that, that's what we're planning on doing. Now, one of the things that I really wanted to do, I mean, that really made me go this route is this. Here's some photocopies from Corky Bell's book, and he was explaining in here the K-Tech, which did the IMSA cars for the Renault 5s. They had, I mean, I have two things in here. One says a 1400cc, one says an 1100cc. I assume it's the 1100cc's because they're only getting 263 horsepower out of an IMSA car motor. And it's not even a rally motor. And the thing is, they were easily, from what I heard, they were getting 280 horsepower, no problem, out of the 1400cc motors in rally form. So, in rally form maps, you know, they have a lot longer distance in between rebuilds. So, you have, how can I put this? I think it's I think it's more an 1100 cc motor that that they're telling us what they did. So, but that's beside the point. Now I'm going to try and photocopy this or scan it and put it up here, and I put a finger on it. But take a look at the header. What they did was a 4:1 equal length header, and even here it says a smooth transition into the turbo with a 4 equal lengths. Now that's what I'm going to do. And you're probably wondering, okay, well, you know, why are you doing this? Well, even they say in the book that your lag goes down significantly if you have an equal length runner system into the turbocharger. And my thought is, you know what? It sounds only logical because if you have an equal length header, what happens when a pulse, an exhaust pulse, goes through the header and there's no other pulses going through the surrounding portions of the header? It's just like when I did the brake ducts on the Audi rally car. When that thing goes by, it should have a siphoning effect, and actually draw the other one or help the other pulses come out the tube, seeing how they're not restricted, not crashing into each other. At least that's what I think is happening. I don't know. I'm just a hillbilly out here in New Hampshire mucking about with this stuff, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So what I want to do is I needed a whole bunch of tubing and stuff to make this thing work. So I looked at header kits. I say, okay, great. I'll look at a header kit. So I looked on, what was it? Maybe Jags or something like that, or Summit. But the header kits were like $900, and I'm sitting there going, oh my god. I don't want to spend that much money on this header because I'd just rather use the original. At that point, I just want to have something fun and put something together that's going to make it work. Well, what I did was I says, well, what can I get? And plus the primaries on the other ones were way too big. I need something that's relatively the same exact size of the primaries on this, so we're keeping it the same size as the factory would have it, and then make it 4:1. So I wanted to go out and get myself a DIY header kit. And I'm sitting there going, all right, well, some disassembly is required, but this is what I got. This right here, I believe it's from a K-Series Honda or whatever, but take a look at it. It's a 4:1 with, look at all the lengths and bends and stuff like that. I think I can use this. And you know what the best thing about this is? It's $119 delivered to your door. It's like, okay. And look at the transition, it was actually really nice. There's very few things that are straight on this header. This flange is cocked to the right. There's a bow inside the flange right here because I put a straight edge on it, but I don't care about that. All I have to do is get my stuff on, get my grinder. I'm gonna probably have to use like 4 wheels on this thing, or 5 grinding or cutting wheels to get all this up. But I'm gonna sectionalize every single thing off of this thing, and then we're gonna try and figure out where everything goes. Now, I'm probably just going to build a couple of plates. It won't be the plates that I'm going to use for the flanges, for the head. It'll be just something to bolt onto, just to tack onto, just to see where they're going to go. But first things first, let me get my stuff on. I am going to just slice this all up is the main thing. I just want to cut it all up so it gives us a bunch of bits and pieces to build something with. And I think it's going to be kind of cool. The biggest challenge is going to be able to get it underneath the heat shield. That's the biggest challenge, without harming the heat shield whatsoever, and making sure it all goes into the turbo and not, conflicting with the starter, not conflicting with, all that stuff, So first things first, let me shut this down. I'm going to move this over, get my gear on, and let's cut this thing up. Now that all the pipes are cut up, I put the flange on here. I put a piece of tape in here so no shit gets down inside the exhaust ports. Kind of a big thing. Even though everything blows out, doesn't really matter. Don't want it into the turbocharger. I cut these out to give us exact placement of where the pipe is going to be. Now, we need to do the longest pipe first. So we have a starting point. We need an end point. We're not going to wrap all the way around to the turbocharger. We're going to go right to this collector. And where do I want the collector? I was going to have the collector right here and then run all the pipes and have it look really cool. But the pipes are getting way too close to this temperature sensor. I want to build more distance between the temperature sensor on this back side of the cylinder head to the turbocharger. Well, what do I got for that? I have this. This right here is a stainless steel exhaust pipe that I use for intercooler tubing because it's what I had. And I'm looking at it going, if I have it right here and I have this right here, okay, well, I got plenty of room. It'll go right in. It'll look pretty cool. Good, we have that solved. So we're going to have it right around here. How am I going to how am I going to make this to a point where I know this is going to be good as a finishing point for the tubes? Well, I took a bolt off the alternator, and I need to have, and the reason why I kept this mount on here is so, you know, originally I was just going to bolt it right here, and then we're going to run from there and see what happens, or put an extension. And I said, you know what? How about this? I grabbed this. This is an alternator tensioning bracket from an Audi or Volkswagen, but I think it's from a 4000 Quattro. What I'm going to do here is you take this bolt, put it in here where the starter is. This gives us a point of contact of where we're going to be. Take this, I'm going to bolt it to here. This way I can move it up and down. All right, what's the most advantageous place? Is it going to be, you know, this level right here with these two pipes, or is it going to be like this with these two pipes level, this one up top, so I can run this, just come out exactly enough and just run straight in here. That way the next pipe goes out, goes in, you know, either right here or right here. This pipe will probably go around into here. This pipe probably go around into here. We also have to maintain clearance for the starter because it's a Paris Rhone starter. You can't go those on the shelf. As you can see, I put a new starter solenoid in here. I didn't, but the guys down at Chelmsford Auto Electric did. But what I want to do is, you know, this one will probably be the closest right here. I'm going to have it angled a little bit. That way I can reduce this one to go up inside here or inside here. Whatever it was, I also have to, you know, be cognizant of where the bolts are, how far off the head it is, how far down on the head it is, you know, using the original manifold. That's the space we have to work with. Is that enough talking? Well, let me bolt this all together and let's make it work. What I'm trying to do is find the shortest bend the factory did off of the cylinder head. And it was 40 millimeters basically is what it is. So I have to cut this. Then I'm going to trim this out. Use this bend to go into right here. We have the first pipe pretty much initially set. We have one tack here, 3 here, and 1 here. This one is very, very small, so I can actually cut it off. What I want to do is measure this length right here to give me a fighting chance of making it pretty much equal. What am I going to do that with? Right here, this is a Taylor's tape. You go out like this, it stays like that, and it's meant for measuring curved surfaces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the absolute outside of this, put the 0 down here, right there, out here. And what do we have? We have just a hair over 16 inches. So the next one is going to be 16 inches. I'm trying to think about which one I'm going to do next. Yeah, I'm going to do this one. Instead of this one, I was really thinking about doing, I think I'm going to do this one because this is, I'm going to have to drop it down and bring it up into here. That'll give me these two places for these two ports right here. Let's see how it works out. First things first, let me get some more pipe. Let's cut this up and see how it works. The next one's going to be the internal one, because I am going to take this off and I'm going to redo the pipe. What I need to do is have a pipe that comes down here that's going to come up through here and give me enough room to go around it. Isn't this a lovely thing that you have to do? So let's, yeah, let me just do something like that. I mean, this is kind of what I want to do right here. And then turn this and loop it back around inside. I think that'll work. Here is that little piece I just cut out. What am I using this for? I am using this as a filler piece because we have to seal all of the gaps right here. Now on here, we can fill it in with the MIG right there, then weld when we'll weld onto the collector. But the internal portion, we'd have to weld all the way up through here, all the way around. It's just miserable. I had to do that on the other one because I didn't use a collector. I mean, for the Audi rally car. So, seeing how we have a collector, this is the way I'm going to do it. This is the way most people do it. So I'll just weld this stuff all up, and then we're going to put this back on the car and have the collector sit right on here. We'll put it on there all set up, and then we will weld the collector all on it, put the pipe to the turbo, and finish up. And also, you probably was wondering why I was using the frame square. The frame square, I just wanted to keep this section right here perpendicular to the mount on the head is what I wanted to do. So that's kind of the reason why I did all this. It's all perpendicular. The internal portion isn't, but I don't care about that. I just want the external portion where the collector actually fits, so it's nice and equal. And when you sit there and you look at it like this, you can put the collector on and everything fits up really nice, We'll weld this on after we get all this welded up, and then I'm going to pull that clamp off, pull this clamp off, throw this back on the car, and we'll finish up the header in the episode. What do you think? Look at it! Oh, I did screw up on it. Where is this? Number 3, right here. This one right here. This pipe. This pipe is 18 and a little bit more inches. All the rest are roughly 19 and a quarter. So I'm pretty good there on length. And I'm doing cord length. That's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm just running the cord and just running it down there. So I think I did okay with this. I mean, what do you expect? It's a $120 header for this thing. I think it looks wicked cool, I just like it. And to take a look at this picture right here, this was the picture in the parts diagram for the Renault Sport header, and they had this pipe too. It's just a little shorter. So I'm pretty ecstatic about that, and I'm going to have the oxygen sensor off at the other side of the turbocharger. Anything else I missed? I had to use cap head screws onto the turbocharger because I'm using M10 bolts. I'm not using M8s. I want M10s because they're stronger and they support the turbocharger, and there's less likely for the turbocharger to move around. So I have to use cap head just for the width. It's not a bad. I mean, I got tons of them because all the Audis use cap head bolts when they put the mounts on in the early Audis. So they're fairly common. Other than that, this mount right here on the original head, I'm going to keep this right now because this is a really good mount, but I'm almost thinking about basing the mount here, but I don't really know what's going to happen with the heat shield. I have to get the motor in the car to put the heat shield on it because the heat shield is attached to the car. It's not attached to the motor. And to see, this pipe right here is a concern, and this pipe right here is concerned because it was just sheer space requirements. But I think I have it pretty much squared away. I mean, it's a $120 freaking header. I mean, come on, people. I think it looks pretty cool for $120. I mean, yes, I use a MIG welder, not a TIG welder, because I still haven't gotten in my tungstens yet. But when I get them in, that's what I'm going to do, the front pulley. But I don't really care. I just, it doesn't matter to me, Other than that, the flange right here, I use that boilerplate. One of the reason why I use that boiler, or the plate from the old boiler, is because it's been heat cycled so many times. Probably a couple thousand billion times or whatever it is that the thing heat cycles. Cools out, cools down. So it's a very stable piece of metal. I mean, yes, it's about quarter to 3/8 of an inch thick, roughly around there. Yeah, I'm okay. If it doesn't work and it does warp, okay, I'll put a half inch. I'll get a half inch piece of plate for my friend and have and cut the flange and put a new flange on it. But for now, I think it's going to work. Also, oh, you're probably wondering, the people in the other who watch my videos for the Audi rally car will know the reason why I use a respirator, especially underneath my welding helmet. A, the fumes, and B, especially right now, it's cold. I think it's warmed up to 20 degrees Fahrenheit in the barn, as you can see my breath. Um, but the thing is, it blows out the bottom, so my lens doesn't get fogged up, And plus, when you sit there and look at it, going, all right, well, with all this shit that's flying around there, because when I'm over the table, there's just tons of garbage from the wheels from cutting all the pipes and all that stuff. You don't want that shit in your lungs anyway. So that's it. That's the only reason why. But that was the big reason why I wear it underneath my helmet. Also, other than that, it's yeah. You guys can do it. You guys can do this. Take your whatever you have and take your $120 eBay header and cut it up, and there you go. I think it looks really neat. It's like, I okay, I humor easily, So, but this is well on its way. I really really like it, and thank you very much for showing up. Next time, I got to clock the turbo next time, and if I have my tungstens in, I'm gonna set the timing, set everything, clean that up. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do else to preclude into it, but yeah, it looks pretty cool. I love it. Well, thank you very much for showing up and for showing up for some stupid hillbilly out here in New Hampshire mucking about with these things. It just takes a little bit of will. I wish there was a little bit more heat, but other than that, thank you very much for showing up. We'll see you now. Bye. Here's the stuff you're going to end up with after you cut up the header. This is leftover. I pulled these up off the ground just to give you an idea how many cuts you're going to have to do. And this is just probably 1% of all the dust. Also, remember I said it was warmed up to 20 hopefully? Yeah, 14 degrees. Oh, gotta love New Hampshire.